Hi, Floppers. Before we start our regular nonsense, we wanted to make sure you knew the Flophouse is going on a 4-city West Coast tour this January. It's the Flophouse Errors Tour, the biggest event in pop culture entertainment this year, probably. You can see us in Vancouver on Wednesday, January 24th at the Rio Theater, in Portland on Thursday, January 25th at the Aladdin Theater, in San Francisco on Friday, January 26th at Cobb's Comedy Club as part of San Francisco Sketchfest, and in Los Angeles on Sunday, January 28th at the Regent Theater. For tickets, go to flophousepodcast.com/events. Again, that's flophousepodcast.com/events. The Flophouse Live. It's like the podcast, but you can smell us. And now, without further ado, our regular nonsense.
Hey, hello. Welcome to a Flophouse Mini. That's right. This is the Flophouse Podcast, and I'm your host, Stuart Wellington, and joining me are...
Dan McCoy.
And Elliot Galen. Dan, I like the energy you gave it. You gave a lot of good energy to it, Dan. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know why. I know that we introduce ourselves at the beginning of every show, but something about Stuart's way of turning to me threw me off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when it came time for Dan's turn to introduce himself, he visibly flinched from me.
I froze.
I was very unhappy.
Who am I?
Okay, so here at the Flophouse, we normally watch a bad movie and then talk about it, but today's a mini, so we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be doing a show that I like to call Only in Theaters. That's right, we're doing a special mini episode talking about the theater-going experience. Because you know me, Stuart Wellington, I'm a bit of a theater kid growing up. That means I liked seeing movies in movie theaters.
Okay.
That's what that means usually.
So.
You went to theater camp, which was just the movie theater in the summer.
That's what I would call it, yep. That's great. So I think you guys can agree that the movie theater experience has been fairly formative for all of us. And
Sure.
I would like to talk about various elements of the theater-going experience. And specifically, I want to talk about an early pitch for the Flophouse TV show. This was pitched to me and then possibly not relayed to these guys a while ago by my wife, Charlene. So this is all TM Charlene. One of her pitches for the Flophouse TV show was the idea that Dan would inherit a movie theater and that for some reason Stuart and Elliot would have to live with him and we would have to try and run a movie theater. But of course, the only movies we would get would be bad ones that we would have to make fun of, something like that.
This is a good pitch. I remember this pitch. This was a good one. Yeah.
I like it. Is it primarily sort of pivoting to a sitcom with this premise, or is it sort of like Mystery Science Theater where this is the framing device to us, watching movies?
I think it could be both. Stuart, what was Charlene's original vision of it?
I don't remember. This was many years ago.
Indictment.
I think it was a little bit of both. I think there was
I could see this
a
being
little bit of
sitcom elements and riff elements, much as same way that Jury Duty has kind of like sitcom elements and hidden camera prank elements,
Yep. And just like that, we would also feature somebody who doesn't know we're making a show. That's right, Dan McCoy. You would be the plant, the real life person.
Push me out of bed.
So before we get too much into the theater-going experience, let's talk a little bit about this movie theater. If we inherited a movie theater, Dan inherits a movie theater, and we had to run it.
Love it.
What would we name that movie theater? The Flophouse is the obvious one, but I say let's dig a little deeper.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
The Peach
really
Pits.
putting us on the spot for a clever rejoinder, or even
you can think about it. Why don't we
Dan
circle
McCoy's
back?
Movie Madhouse?
That's
okay.
Why would we mess with perfection?
Dan McCoy's Movie Madhouse.
Now, I'm assuming in this case it would also only be a single screen, not a multiplex.
I would
right?
think so, probably.
Yeah,
right?
I'm imagining an old time kind of
old-timey movie houses. Now, that's the thing, guys. Speaking of movie theater experiences, I went to
That's what we're doing.
Mini.
Like a few years back, I went to a small theater in downtown Brooklyn. I think the one on Court Street, maybe. And the smell
the little
of
one, the real little one.
the little one. With
I know that one.
The smell of popcorn baked into that fucking carpet, and the sound of video games around the corner. It took me back so hard. So it made the experience of going to see Gone Girl that much better. But I feel like a little bit of that is lost nowadays. When was the last time you went to a movie theater that smelled like a movie theater?
It's interesting because, Yeah, like we have these like all these like boutique theaters near us in Brooklyn now that I don't feel like I go into one where it's just like someone dropped a bunch of butter flavored coconut oil on the carpet 20 years ago. The place still stinks.
Yeah, there's most of the theaters near us are pretty new and clean. And like I took my kids to see a movie, was it last weekend? I guess it was. And my younger son spilled an entire jumbo bucket of popcorn right outside the theater, and I reported it to the staff there. And when we left the theater, it was gone, and you would never have known it had happened. Like there was not a single crumb left. But there is a theater.
It was like those aliens in Heavy Metal that use their giant like vacuum noses to snort up cocaine.
Exactly, but with popcorn, yeah. But there is a theater in Pasadena that is an old, fairly rundown theater, very poorly laid out. I took my older son to see the Ninja Turtles movie there, and I was delighted to see that the middle of the theater, where the best seats would be, was actually where the stairs going up into the room were, and they had railings around it. So if you wanted to sit in the middle theater, you had to look over the railings. It was the worst laid out theater I feel like I've ever been in. But there was something very old-fashioned about that like this was probably a bigger room that they cut up maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
And the place is dirty and it smells gross and popcorny. But there's something kind of fun about that because it felt like, oh, we're going to a real movie theater. We're not going to like a clean multiplex that you would order food at your chair from. We're going to like a place that feels old, So there was something nice about that. Yeah.
So this is all important information because we're obviously brainstorming the movie theater that we're going to be opening, of course.
And it's got to be a gross old theater. It's no fun if we're doing this at a clean new theater, right?
So yeah, of course not. It has to be a hellhole. So it has to be like the old Park Slope Pavilion Theater.
I was wondering was going to get brought up.
I was just thinking the same one, the Pavilion Theater, which everyone said they had bed bugs. I don't think they did, but they did routinely turn off or just break the lights in the stairs. So if you had to go to the upstairs theater, you would be in the dark, just hoping you didn't fall down.
I mean, they certainly had multiple screens with visible tears on them or stains for where sodas had been thrown. And a lot of theaters where even the seats that didn't have garbage bags over them to indicate that they were broken were broken.
We're still broken, yeah.
I remember seeing a Hot Tub Time Machine in one of those theaters, and the smell of mildewy chairs was so prevalent. I'm like, I'm in the movie.
Yeah. I used to go, that theater was in close walking distance to my apartment. So I would go there so often, and it was just like, you knew there would be no one else in the theater because no one else wanted to be in that theater.
Yeah, you were there because you wanted to see a movie. Because you have a problem.
You know how some people in the summer go see movies because they want to get some air conditioning? That's not why you're at the Pavilion Theater.
No,
the air conditioning
you will
work.
not get it.
Because something in you demands the movie experience, and this is what is within walking distance. That was their promise to you.
And then I would round it out by going to the used bookstore that I think is now closed, which was roughly the size of an alleyway and smelled like cat pee. And every book I bought there also smelled like cat pee.
Cool. That rules. So wait, now the downtown Manhattan theater where you could always hear the subway, was that the Angelica?
That's the Angelica,
oh, man, that was great too.
And they
would always crank the AC so high. That was the
we
theater.
Talk about it in the past tense. I think it's still around. Yeah.
But I remember seeing years ago. I remember seeing Snowpiercer there, and the combination of super frigid cold atmosphere and sound of subway trains running. I was like, I'm in the movie.
40X, man.
I used to go. I remember I saw a lot of movies there. I remember they have one theater there that's tiny. That's so incredibly tiny. And I saw Primer in that theater. I saw The Fountain when I was first dating my wife. And a lot of magical experiences in this tiny theater where you can hear trains, sometimes the other theaters also. And the refreshments are pretty expensive.
Stuart, do you remember the theater that was like, it was closed very early on in our time in New York, but it was like basically across from Charlene's. There was a place there that then became like an American Apparel.
It was an American Apparel for a long time.
Yeah. I never actually saw a movie at that theater.
I saw The Final Matrix, which was a disappointing experience, and the Ang Lee.
It was called
Incredible
Matrix Disappointments. That was the title.
Yeah.
I feel like it's had a cultural reevaluation.
But Dan, I cut you off. Sorry. What was your experience seeing Matrix? What Revolutions?
I saw that and Ang Lee's The Hulk, and
a movie that I still like.
No, that one's fun. It's got flair. But that was also kind of just like no frills. You walk in there and it's like, okay, well, this kind of feels like a big, I don't know, storage container that got turned into a movie theater.
That was the movie where there's occasional wipes where it like turns into a comic book page.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They have
Man, I
panels
wish
on the
comic
screen.
book movies did that shit still. They're like, no, it's a movie. We don't have to do that. We don't have to. People know it's a comic book.
It's a movie now. At this point, more people know this from the movies than know it as a comic book.
Panels. We have to show that there's panels.
Well, was that like
We
an
paid for
old timey
this
movie
paneling.
house, or what's going on there?
I mean, I don't think of old time movie house in the way that like I would think of like, oh, the old movie palaces, but
like,
Yeah,
Old
you're
time
not
movie
going to
house,
get less action heroed while you're there.
it certainly reminded me of like the place. I wish I could remember what it was called, like Sunnyland, I think, movie theater in Washington, Illinois, the half an hour away that we would drive to when I was a kid. That kind of like, I don't know, it could be the architecture, that Midwestern architecture where it could be a church or it could be a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
In this case,
Yep.
it was a movie theater. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that.
Now, I want you guys to think back. We've all been seeing movies for a while now.
Yeah.
Can you think back to a time where you have been a bad movie theater attendee? Like, have you walked out of a movie before? Have you been particularly disruptive?
I've never walked out of a movie. In fact, I remember seeing Joe's Apartment in the theaters, and the film broke within 20 minutes, and me and my brother sat around waiting for them to fix it. It just took too long, and we had to go. But we were even that was the universe telling us you should walk out of this movie early.
Yeah.
But there have definitely been times when, I mean, on the day, we've talked about this on the podcast, on my wedding day when we all went to see Piranha 3D, we were not particularly good audience members to the two other people in the theater for that one.
Who
Or
were
when I went-
expecting a somber viewing of Piranha?
or when I
3D.
went with when Jenny, Jaffe, and I went to go see Cats in the theaters, but otherwise,
I feel like you probably weren't as bad as the people that were in the same theater as us as Cats who were trying to do their own riff show. And I'm not talking about me and Dan. We were being lovely. We were enjoying it like it was meant to be enjoyed, somewhat ironically.
But otherwise, like I don't usually talk. I don't talk back to the screen. I don't yell in movies. I don't masturbate in the theater. I try not to spill the things I have.
You gotta try.
You gotta.
I mean, when I was a teenager, I definitely remember seeing Man Without a Face with a bunch of fellow teens, and we were super disruptive. We like snuck fucking Jolt Colas in. We were real jerks.
Yeah.
I think we were either kicked out or left.
I
early.
don't think I have ever been that guy. I've left a couple, like I remember distinctly, I left the Korean horror movie The Eye, not because it was particularly bad. Like I've never seen it in full since then. But I know that there are proponents out there.
I
but
know it.
I just, I was going there because it was my birthday, and I was like, I want to see a movie. Like this one's gotten good review, and like just the vibe just was wrong. I'm
Wait.
like, this is not making me happy right now. Let's leave.
Yeah,
Like,
Dan, you're reminding me of the one time I did walk out of a movie. I did do this. It was on September 12th, 2001, when I was living in a dorm on Union Square in New York. There was what used to be that huge AMC theater that was on the corner of 14th Street and was it Broadway? I can't remember. That has since relatively recently closed. And the day after September 11th, they posted notices on the doors saying, New York, let's make this a day at the movies. Let's forget our troubles or something like that. Free movies all day, free refreshments all day. And me and another college student were like, oh, well, we've been hearing that Jeepers Creepers is kind of a fun throwback to like old-timey grindhouse horror. And we got the biggest popcorns we could and the biggest sodas because it was all free. And we went into our free packed screening of Jeepers Creepers. And about 10 minutes in, we were like, I don't have this. I can't right now. This is not doing it for me. And we left that. Yeah. So those extenuating circumstances. It was the day after September 11th.
well, yeah. I mean, it's never been as dramatic for me as September 11th. But the times that I've left a movie have been all about, like, I love movies, as I think should be apparent to listeners of this podcast.
Even ones that you probably shouldn't. It was
Even
just
ones I
also
probably
apparent
shouldn't.
to listeners of the podcast. Yeah.
And because of that, I think I reflexively think to myself, like, what do I want to do? I want to watch a movie. Like, this will make me happy. I'll go to the movies. And as I've grown older and better able to sort of identify my own emotions, there have been more times where I'm like, oh, I did this because I thought it would make me happy. It's not actually what I need to do right now.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times, like I'm seeing a thing because I'm part of a loyalty program, so I'm paying the fee anyway. It's not like I spent extra money for this movie.
It's like
I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
like
do
a
something else.
post-nut clarity or something.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'd rather be reading quietly at home.
Yeah.
Maybe that would make me happier.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's very mature of you that you don't have that feeling, that completionist feeling where you're like, I'm here, I have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I can't not finish it.
I did walk out of a screening of Logan that I went to. It was a matinee, and I didn't
Logan
realize. Nope, Logan, the killer Wolverine movie.
Right.
And I didn't realize it was a matinee, and I didn't realize it was like a school holiday. So I sit down, and then like right after the movie started, like a mom brings in like a dozen very young children, and then Wolverine starts like chopping dudes' arms and saying fucking shit, and like the kids are like yelling, and I'm like, I just stand up and I go, fuck this, and walk out of the theater.
Yeah.
That was just like, it was just passive aggressive enough, but it was a little showy. Oh man, it was great. I felt really good. Or I could talk about the time that I was when I went and saw Speed Racer while on a on a work trip.
School trip.
I wish it was a
Okay,
school trip.
class. Today we're going to see Speed Racer.
Our field trip to the Museum of Science and Industry where they're playing Speed Racer for some reason.
I went to this. It was like with a bunch of work people, and I was out of town. And I just remember I was getting into a very intense like sexting situation with an ex, and I was like
Sexting.
Yeah,
Sex
I'm like,
sexting?
I like kept sneaking out of the theater. And I think that was back in the day when like iPhones, if you wanted to send a dirty message, like a dirty picture, it didn't go direct. It like went to a website you had to log into. You remember that?
Makes it really hard to pay
sexting.
attention to Speed Racer, which is a movie you really have to pay close attention
When
to.
you
also.
first knew me, I was
so quiet.
married for a long time. So by the time
Yeah.
any sexting entered my life, it was...
You don't sex with your partner? Oh man, it really spiced things up. Okay, so let's now that we're talking about
I've never done it. I'm just...
let's talk about some. We've talked about great theater experiences, maybe some bad ones. How do you guys feel? Do you prefer a totally full theater or an empty theater?
Honestly, it just depends on the people in that crowd. Like, if they are respectful moviegoers, I would always prefer a full theater for certain types of movies, like horror or comedy. I think work the best when you're just like with a full crowd that's in it. But if it's like assholes, I don't want those people. I would rather be
Let's
there
assume
alone.
that not everyone is an asshole.
I think that for the most part, I guess it differs for genres, what I would say. Like, there are certain genres where I'm like, I hunger more for like the communal experience, but I also really enjoy going into a theater and being like, yeah, I'm the only one here.
Like, so Dan, you're going to see Ava DuVernay's Origin.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want a full communal packed theater, or you want
like,
just
a
be by
crowd
yourself?
pleaser that's going to have a lot of moments where people stand up and cheer, like Flash is entering the Speed Force.
This year, I feel like Origin is a lock for that stand up and cheer moment award.
Oh man, yeah. It's up there with Zone of Interest.
God.
I'm not cheering.
Certain people are cheering. They feel emboldened to cheer, whereas in the past, perhaps they wouldn't have cheered. I think for me, it depends on how I'm feeling at the moment, and and like Dan's saying, what kind of movie it is. Like, there are times when I've enjoyed having that private theater feeling when I'm the only one there for a matinee, but there are other times where I feel sad that I'm the only one there. Like, I went to see Stop Making Sense when it was re-released in the theaters, and there was part of me there were only a couple other people in the theater. There's part of me that was kind of glad because it meant I didn't have to feel self-conscious if I was like moving to the music at all. But there's also part of me that was like, oh, it'd be cool if this was more of a whole audience getting into this concert feel, if it felt more like a concert that way,
Yeah. Now, I think in general, we all agree that like seeing a movie in the theater is probably the preferred experience. But is there a specific like you had mentioned genres work better with different crowds? Is there a type of movie that like you need to see in the theater as opposed to watching at home, or the inverse?
I mean, I think that there's this general conventional wisdom, like, oh, like big movies are like what you got to see in the theater, and I get why that catches on because it has a certain like blunt ring of truth of like I want to see something visual, highly visual in the theater, but
And it can change the impact. Like when I saw Gravity in the theater, I was like, this is amazing. And I have not watched it since then because it's not going to be the same on a television or an iPad.
I have never had any desire to revisit Avatar at home, not in giant 3D, but I had a good time at the time.
I saw somebody on a plane watching Gravity, and I'm like, this is a weird experience, buddy.
But I feel like it can be helpful for me sometimes to be in theater for a smaller movie because I can be hyper focused on it. There's no disturbance. Like I watched Past Lives at home and I loved it, but I kept thinking like if I was watching this theater, I could be watching this only and not distracted by anything else. And then I think I would pick up so much nuance in the performances that I was probably missing.
Yeah, you were so distracted by like all the possibilities that you missed out on and all the things that you like the different paths your life could have taken, but like you weren't in the theater, so you.
I was at home, and so I was distracted by the reminding of what it was like when I was Maud Deeb, and I had the choice between creating a galactic jihad or not, and I chose the not. And it's like, well, what if it had been different? What if I had gone all the way with it? You know,
makes sense.
But that's what I wanted to get at, though. Without the throw the conventional wisdom out. I think any good movie is probably enhanced by seeing it in the theater, whereas there are some like mediocre movies that maybe be easier on critically if you saw them at home and didn't feel like you're making a big deal out of it, and then of course there are certain sort of art films from Europe, with highly sexual situations that maybe are best enjoyed in the privacy of your own home,
not in the theater with your mom. Yeah, sure, of course.
Although you were talking about cranking in the theater, do you want to elaborate on that?
That was
Dan, you came out as pro cranking.
JK, just kidding.
Oh, JKs. Okay,
that means that there are horror movies. I would normally rather see a horror movie in a theater with an audience because you can get their scares. But there are times when a horror movie is much scarier to me if I'm at home by myself, or like I watched Barbarian by myself at home, and it was like, I'm in a situation where someone could come out of the basement right now and kill me, and it made it scarier. Or watching Mandy at home, I had an extra level of fear that my children would get up from their bedrooms and walk in at any moment and see what I was watching, and that would traumatize them.
Yeah. I mean, the real joy of Mandy seeing in the theater was the moment when I'm like, I'm watching this in a movie theater.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
What a picture. So we've talked a little bit about the experience. Let's talk about snacks. What kind of movie snacks do you love in a movie theater?
Movie snacks.
Popcorn, candy. Do you go nuts? Do you buy everything and have to hire somebody to carry it for you?
Gotta go with classic PC. That's right, an old PC computer that you just take bites out of, just rip off the circuits and eat them. I'm just kidding. Popcorn is what I'm talking about. You have to have popcorn for me.
I love popcorn. It's the sizes at which you get it at the movie theater, even when it's small, and like the butter, which I want. I want the weird butter, but I know how bad it is.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel bad. So I get something that's also bad for me, but feels like size-wise at least less of an indulgence. And I actually like nachos.
Okay, nachos.
Okay. I do definitely, at the end of a movie, I always feel gross because of all the popcorn I've eaten. Like, my stomach always feels bad.
So, I mean, obviously,
Stuart, you mostly just eat kind of nuts and berries throughout the day in small amounts.
Forage what has fallen on the forest floor.
So what do you eat in the theaters? Yeah,
when I'm at one of these fancy boutique theaters where they have like a full kitchen, I'm like, can you just make me like a garden salad? I mean, I am.
Can I buy one onion and just eat that?
Yeah.
I
keep it in my pocket until
please.
it gets a little bit soft, and then I eat it because that's when it's the best. When it's nice, soft, and sweet,
Yeah, soft, sweet onion.
So
that's also Stuart's.
I mean, there is a lot of sweetness in.
That was also Stuart's catchphrase when he was Superman's best friend, Stuart Wellington. Soft, sweet onions, Superman.
I often go and make a full experience out of going to the movies when I'll go to like the Nighthawk or one of the Alamos, like one of these boutique theaters with a full kitchen, and I spend a lot of money, which is I feel like I'm glad these theaters weren't common when I was like a broke 20-year-old, because I'd be like, but I want to go to the movies and spend all my money. But like I'll often get like a salad or a grain bowl. They have like sandwiches, but that always feels like too messy of a food item to me.
Yeah.
Like pizza
over
or
a
flatbread
salad
makes
or a grain bowl.
You're
I'm sorry,
eating it
you're
with your
in
hands.
the dark. You're in the dark. No, there's nothing of the foods that one could have as a full dinner. Like a sandwich.
You think the sandwich
is a good choice for a movie theater? Like the reason I don't tend to get like, I'm always like, I mean, granted, there's probably other more base reasons why I'm like eschewing the healthier food, but I'm like, I can't eat that. Like, I don't want something that involves me like putting a fork back and forth to my mouth in the dark several times and dropping.
Yeah, you might
shit on
accidentally
myself.
stab your dick, which is out because you're masturbating while watching the movie. Apparently.
Oh yeah, you might pour fucking queso all over. Your
I just
ding
know
Yeah,
dong.
then
one
you
time-
take a bite out of it because you think it's a sausage or something, and
Oh
now,
god, that would be horrible.
One time
Yeah.
in one of these places, I had like their like brunch pizza, which ended up having like an over easy egg in the middle of it, which. Don't get me
Sounds
wrong.
delicious.
Under normal circumstances, I would enjoy. Under these circumstances, I end up with yolk all over my pants.
oh,
You're like,
Not
oh,
even
I
on your
shouldn't have
face,
worn. I shouldn't have worn my fresh, clean black pants. I definitely
will
went.
tell you-
I think I went and saw like one of the Mission Impossibles, and I wore like black on black and got queso all over myself because I was getting so into the movie.
I did have a great sandwich experience in the movies once when my brother and I went to go see Shoot 'Em Up in the theaters the day after Yom Kippur, and we had all this. My grandmother had hosted breakfast the day before and gave us all the sliced Hebrew National salami that was left over. So we just made ourselves enormous salami sandwiches and just sat there watching this movie, eating salami sandwich after salami sandwich, and it was a duet of pleasures. Yeah,
I feel like if
Beautiful.
you shaved some carrot on there, that'd have been perfect for the movie. But that's
because he does eat carrots in it. Yeah,
Yeah, he's always chomping on carrots.
and then his eyesight
now-
gets immediately better.
Now we talked about what we have eaten. What do we think? What is peering into the future? What do you think is a snack item that movie theaters should start to have? Are we
Bitcoin?
talking?
Is that a food?
Dippin' Dots? Dippin' Dots, the ice
They are
cream
the
of the future.
My
Ice cream of the
kids would
future.
love that because they love Dippin' Dots, even though I think it's not so good. But
More
Now, which
corn
part do they
dogs?
like,
I feel
the
like-
dipping or the dots?
the dots, they like the dots. I think the dots are
Yeah.
the ice cream part. The action of getting the ice cream into them is not you
I feel
know.
like-
Sure.
I don't see a lot of corn dogs on menus, but I feel like that's such a self-contained item, right? Like
I feel I see
Yeah,
that.
it's not
fairly
going
often.
anywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
I think corn dogs might be hard for theaters because unless you're just having soggy frozen corn dogs, you need a fryer
Yeah.
in the snack area. That being
sushi
said,
would probably be a bad idea. in a
Soup
movie
is probably a
theater.
bad idea.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
soup is best for airplanes, and that's it.
and roller coasters. Yeah, sure. What's
Uh,
the movie food of the? It's so hard because popcorn and candy are such perfect things. Because as Dan has said, you can eat them in the dark easily. With
But if you're
about-
imagine you're in a place that has a full kitchen, Elliot.
okay,
Soylent
I'm- I am in-
tacos.
I am in a place with a full kitchen. My house.
Oh,
What do we
okay.
have here? Yeah.
How about some Soylent corn?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Soylent corn.
Okay.
Just like a big pile of bacon.
Yeah.
yeah.
You can dive
Beans?
into.
What about beans? Is there
just tuck
something
it-
there? Beans? Do
I
people
don't
like
think so
beans?
because then you're gonna get a theater full of farts. That's not.
Oh,
that's not so
okay.
great.
Yeah. Okay.
What is? I'm having trouble. I feel like there are theaters with relatively full kitchens now, so it's hard for me. I feel like that semi-permeable membrane between not a movie food and a movie food has been broken so much.
So what do you
lately.
think? Like a pork tenderloin or some short
Yeah,
ribs?
probably. Oh, maybe ribs. Yeah,
Yeah,
ribs.
no, one of those classic Midwestern pork tenderloins where the thing's like 80 times the size of the bun.
Yeah, it's like where the bun's just like a tiny little hat on it.
Yeah.
Right?
I love them. I introduced those to Audrey and she's like, but why? And I'm like, I don't know. 'Cause the excess is the joy in and of itself. Just to like,
It is wild that there's a commitment to putting like a little bun on it because you're like, you don't need it. Like,
yeah, but you know,
No one
that's
is
the
ever
joy of
eating a
it.
pork chop and is like, this would be
That's
better
the-
if I had a
that's
small
the
amount of
excitement.
bread.
You're like,
well, and because you can't even hold the bun with your hand unless you have like crazy long.
now when you're a
fingers.
kid, you know,
you
you're
have
always
plastic
worried.
man fingers that can stretch. Yeah.
So you
You're
have to
like-
hold it with two hands, with your top hand on the top of the bun.
Have you ever had the experience where you're like, oh man, like this sandwich has like these portions where I'm just getting bread. I'm not getting the stuff inside. You don't have to worry about that at any point.
Not at all.
Yeah,
But it will have the issue I think I have usually with hamburgers, which is that the bottom half of the bun just disintegrates in my hands, and I have to turn the hamburger either upside down or eat it with a knife and fork because it's just in wet pieces at that
Yeah,
point.
because you ordered an extra wet burger, right?
I mean, to be honest, I do like them super juicy. So yeah, whenever they go, "How would
Slop
you
it
like
up,
your
add
burger
extra
cooked?" And I
juice.
say, "Does it have to be cooked? Can it just be kind of like a wet lump of raw meat?" And they say, "No, we can't do that." So maybe like raw hamburger, just a lump of raw hamburger to eat with your hands at the movie theater.
My trainer was telling me that he'll catch his dad just going through he'll open up the fridge and just take like handfuls of ground beef, like uncooked ground beef, and like carry it around like snack on it.
I'll get there someday. This is I've always dreamed about having a little shelf in my car that I can put a rotisserie chicken on, so I can just steer with one hand while I reach with the other hand and just pick off pieces of chicken to eat.
Yeah, visions
When
of
I
the future.
was in in Paris, like some years back, I remember.
Oh, all right, must be nice.
Yeah, well, you know, I was working at the Daily Show at the time. It was
Oh wow,
easier.
must be nice. Yeah,
Yeah, well, you know, it was. You were there.
yeah, it was
too.
nice.
Anyway, I saw someone. I was at this like little bistro. And I saw someone order steak tartare, and when I've seen steak tartare, it's usually
Yeah, sure.
like
When
thinly sliced.
when you're out riding with the Golden Horde and you stick the beef under your saddle. Yeah.
I know. I sound so fucking thinly sliced. Steak is usually what I associate with tartare. And this guy was like tucking into this big mound of ground beef with like an egg yolk cracked in the middle. And I'm like, I'm a pretty adventurous man and I've eaten raw beef in tartare form. This is grossing me the fuck out right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not really a
So did
story.
you
I
go
just
over and
needed
talk to him?
unload that trauma onto you guys.
No, but that was good. That was good. It was very on point for what we're talking about, which is movie theaters.
Hey,
Well,
I didn't bring
I
up tartare.
Yeah, I think tartare is we'll put that in the no column.
Yeah.
So
For
Tartar
our
is the
movie
sequel
theater.
to Tar, starring Kate Blanchett, right? Where there's two of her. We found your
No,
twin
that's
sister.
Tutar.
Tutar.
And then there's my Tutar, where this man hires her to be his personal conductor, and they have
Sure,
a sexual
yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, and don't forget when somebody moves next to her and it's my neighbor Totaro. Okay, on that note, I think it's time to talk about some of those sponsors sporting this silliness.
Good. I was certainly prepared for it. Is the best thing about this being the time that we talk about the sponsors. Here it is. Hey, 1 in 5 Americans have learned a new language on their bucket list. If that's you, that 1 in 5, make 2024 the year you finally check it off the list with Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are designed by over 150 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. And their tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. That sounds great to me because I know that one of the problems I've had with languages in the past is they're taught in such an abstract way, and Babbel doesn't do that. Babbel has sold over 10 million subscriptions, plus all of their 14 language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Babbel's convenient courses help you learn real-life conversation skills in a different language. They make it easy to order food, ask directions, speak to merchants without having to look at language apps or phrase books while on vacation. Plus, their speech recognition technology helps you to improve your pronunciation and accent. I could use that for the English language, my pronunciation sometimes on this podcast. Here's a special limited time
He's just saying
deal
what we're all thinking.
for our listeners. Right now, get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners. Only for our listeners.
Get
at
out of here, other
babbel.com
listeners. Get out of here.
/flop. Get 55% off at babbel.com/flop, spelled BABBEL.com/flop. Rules and restrictions may apply. Also, from me, Dan McCoy, there's a Jumbotron. Not from me. I'm just the one reading it.
Okay.
Let me
Checks out.
It really
that
feels like you
clear.
led us down the garden path when you said, from me, Dan McCoy, right at the top.
Sorry. Here's a Jumbotron for you. You know how Dan says the letters are from listeners like you? Well, that's us. We write all the letters. Not really, of course, but we are the podcast called Listeners Like You. Our podcast is made for listeners by listeners. Brian Faunan and Court Winsett aren't talented enough to make or create anything, but we do a lot of consuming, and we like to listen to music, podcasts, and audiobooks, and then talk about our listening experiences, plus a weird assortment of other topics, too. So come listen to Listeners Like You every other Friday. Listen and subscribe wherever podcasts exist.
Most of the plants humans eat are technically grass.
Most of the asphalt we drive on is almost a liquid.
The formula of WD-40 is San Diego's greatest secret.
Zippers were invented by a Swedish immigrant love story.
On the podcast Secretly Incredibly Fascinating, we explore this type of amazing stuff.
Stuff about ordinary topics like cabbage and batteries and socks.
Topics you'd never expect to be the title of the podcast. Secretly Incredibly Fascinating.
Find us by searching for the word secretly in your podcast app.
And at MaximumFun.org.
This next Jumbotron is for Trenton. It is from Tanner. Happy birthday, Trento. Hope you, Jeanette, and the baby are making the most of the day. Thanks for being a great big brother and sharing the Flophouse all those years ago. It resolved so many cowboys and aliens questions, and I've laughed every episode since. Stay warm in Norway, and hope to see you soon. From your brother, Tanner.
Aw.
Very
Aw.
sweet. Very sweet. All right, time for the sweetness to end and the hard sell to begin, because there's some Flophouse stuff going on that you need to know about, and you might already know about it, but if you don't know about it, now you're going to know about it. Please don't skip this part, because I'm telling you the things you got to know. There won't be a test afterwards unless you count life as a test, which I do. The Flophouse is
Certainly
just
a trial. Sorry, go on.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. The Flophouse is just about to go on our long-awaited, eagerly anticipated West Coast tour. That's right. We're about to go across the coast. That's the westernmost. And by across, I mean to 4 places that are all mostly in the north and one place in the south. We're going to be on January 24th in Vancouver talking about the movie Cobra. On January 25th, we're going to be in Portland talking about the movie Cool as Ice. On January 26th, we're going to be in San Francisco talking about Geely. And on January 28th, we come home to my home in Los Angeles and talk about the movie Spawn. We're super excited about these shows. If you haven't been to a Flophouse live show, you should do it because they're super fun. If you have been to a Flophouse live show, come to this one. We will probably not be coming back West Coast way too much sooner after this because we've done shows out here before. It's time for the Flophouse to explore new pastures, new places to spread our seed, if you will, our movie seed, not
What?
any other kind. Like Johnny Appleseed, you know, how he was having sex all over the place. Anyway, go to flophousepodcast.com/events and you'll find all the information and links to where you can get tickets. These shows, if you've never been to one, we each do a PowerPoint presentation at the beginning that is very funny. Mine, spoiler alert, is a little more autobiographical than it has been in the past. I'm going to be talking about some of my experiences in the movie selling world.
Okay.
And
I want to learn about my friend.
yeah, and I have no idea not that much. I have no idea what Dan and Stuart are going to talk about, but Dan showed us one slide from his presentation, and it looks bonkers. So, so get ready. But then we talk about the movie, and then we take questions from you, the audience. So you get your chance to have your voice heard on the show. We always say hi to everybody afterwards in some way, and we sell merchandise and things like that. It's super fun. We love doing these shows. We love meeting people. We'd love to meet you. So go to flophousepodcast.com/events. Come to one of our shows. January 24th in Vancouver, January 25th in Portland, January 26th in San Francisco, and January 28th in Los Angeles. That's the Flophouse West Coast Errors Tour. It'll be super fun. I don't know when we're doing another tour again, so take advantage of this opportunity to come see us. If you can't make it at all to one of these shows and you still want to see us, or you just don't live close enough, with modern airplanes, everyone lives close enough, but that's fine. Okay, let's allow it.
Wow. I mean, maybe they don't want to contribute to the pollution, you know?
That's possible. Or the new pollution, the Beck song. I want to remind you that Flop TV may be over in terms of new episodes, but until the end of January, you can still watch the old episodes that were recorded. That's 6 episode recordings. They're super fun, super funny. We had a great time. Go to theflophouse.simpletix.com until the end of January, and you'll be able to buy a season pass that gets you a discounted watch of all of those episodes. And we hope you enjoy it. They're really good, and at the end of January, they're going to go away, and you're just not going to be able to see them. So take advantage of the chance you have to see us live. Take advantage of the chance you have to see us talking on a video screen, because after the end of January, you're not going to have that chance for a little while. Ooh, spooky.
That is spooky.
Yeah.
Also spooky is the fact that Stuart decided to choose this moment.
Literally
to leave the
ghosted
room,
us as I was finishing the ad read. Or not the
he is the
our
one
tour
in
read.
charge of the mini today, and I don't know where he's taking us next. So
Where do you think what should we guess? Should we try to figure it out?
yeah, let's. So we've talked about the sort of like the vibe of the theater. We've talked about the food. I wonder if there's something about the technical elements, the actual screening.
Yeah,
of
maybe
the
he's going
theater
to
that
give
he's
us a
gonna-
test to become professional projectionists, or ask us
about
about
gonna be
Dolby sound.
digital photography versus. Here he is.
Yeah, whether
Here
it
he-
counts as a movie if it's not shot on. Maybe it doesn't count as a movie if it's not shot
Alex,
on film,
Alex,
which of
keep
course
it
it
all
does.
in. Keep it all in.
Keep it all in.
Now that
Keep
we're
it all.
back, we are back to Only in Theaters, a special Flophouse mini where we talk about the theater-going experience, and specifically, we're brainstorming ideas for our own Flophouse-branded movie theater. Now, since we're going to only have one screen, I think the best thing, and we're all forward-thinking fellows, I think that one screen is going to have to be 4DX capable, right, Dan?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
what everyone wants.
Now,
See a movie.
It's
is to
clearly
be
where the trend is going. Yeah.
shaking
I'm-
around and get some water in their face.
Yeah.
I've never seen a 4DX
4DX.
movie. Have you guys seen a movie in 4DX?
I saw Moonfall in 4DX.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember whether there may have been another one that I can't recall right now.
Did you see Top Gun Maverick in 4DX or no?
No, I saw Top Gun Maverick in another one of their weird made-up formats that Regal has, where it's they project extra stuff on the sides of the walls.
That's stupid.
So like, and it's not for all of it, but there's certain ones where it's like, let's expand your peripheral vision or whatever. And
So it's extra footage of the scene. It's not like extra. It's not like pop-ups and in like information or things like that.
No, it's not like that. That would be unwatchable. This is just
because if I'm not watching Abel
mildly
Gantz's Napoleon,
headache
I don't want
inducing.
I don't want a bunch of stuff on the side of the screen. That's
Yeah.
So, can you explain the 4DX experience slightly for those, including me, who don't understand it?
Well, the whole sort of bank of seats in your row is on hydraulics, so it can go up and move around. Like I thought it would just shake a little, but when I saw Moonfall, for instance, we started out in space, and the thing was raised up and sort of gently drifting around. So
Oh,
we had
wow.
that feeling of being weightless, and it was actually kind of impressive. And then if there's any excuse for if there's wetness in a scene, they will shoot water at you. The cleanliness of the
Don't like
water
that.
is
Don't
unknown
like
at
that
this time. Let's see. There's stuff in the back of your seat that sort of punches your back. At times.
You're
I
making it
could
sound
use that.
wonderful. Every now and then, if it's a scene set in a desert, it'll just blow grit in your face.
Well, they do have it'll just puffs of air at the eye doctor when they're testing the pressure or whatever. They have those air guns. I don't know.
I mean, it
This
sounds
sounds
a
great.
lot like being Viggo Mortensen in Crimes of the Future and having to eat in a weird chair that shakes you around and hurts you.
Yeah.
Is it like that?
Well, I will tell
That's
tell
all.
you.
That's the only way his body can process that crap, dude.
Yeah, until he starts eating plastic.
Yeah.
No
Spoiler alert.
legitimate good film should be watched in 4DX. However, there are certain films for which it is an additive experience, and Moonfall was one of them, because it was I'm watching a big dumb movie and I want this to turn it into an amusement park ride for me, please. And
As opposed to the "you hurt my feelings" 4DX experience. It feels like it would be distracting.
Well, you guys latched right onto the idea because since we're going to have only a single screen and we're not always going to have big movies, we might do some repertory screenings. How would we use the 4DX experience to translate to these past Best Picture winners? So,
It's turned into a game somehow. Okay.
No Country for Old Men. How would we?
Well, obviously, when people get that like pressure thing in their head,
They get the air gets puffed onto them. Yes, they think they're about to die. Sure, yeah.
So you get the whole Anton Chigurh.
I would
Anything
say-
else?
and it-
Maybe blow
I
grit
guess
in our face.
when he's grit, or when he's giving the water to the guy in the desert, maybe it sprays some water at you. There's not a lot of water in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. More of a blood
pretty dry
meridian.
movie. Yeah.
I guess when Anton Chigurh blows that thing up, like your seats shake or something, you know?
Sure, certainly.
Oh, when you walk out with a haircut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's the interactive experience. Everyone gets a dumb haircut.
Forrest Gump.
Oh boy.
Well, you know it's going to blow a feather in your face. That's got to happen.
Oh yeah, totally.
Your legs
blow
get blown
puffs
off.
of like chocolate smells in your
Are we
face.
allowed to expand into more just sort of?
It's our movie theater, Dan. The 4DX is in our control.
Yeah, we do
Okay,
whatever
so we can
want.
do more like William Castle style shenanigans.
Well, it's basically like there's the scene in Kentucky Fried Movie with Sense Around, where the guy's literally just someone stands behind him and shakes him around and hits him and things like that.
Yeah,
It
shrimp
feels like
and
that's
shit. The
kind
scene
of
where
what
they're on the
4DX is.
shrimp boat in the storm, that's just begging for water.
Yep. Water in your face. Yeah, definitely. And
When he
When
meets
you
all
have-
those
He
historical
splashes through
figures.
the reflecting pool. That's water, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's water. And when he has to pee, you have to pee.
Okay. So I think that's Forrest Gump covered. The next Best Picture winner, Out of Africa.
Not having seen the movie, I believe if you
Now we've talked about this. Have we still have not rectified that. None of us have seen Out of Africa yet.
No.
No, as we
from what I can
mentioned in
tell,
a
it's
previous
about-
episode, I'm not sure it's a real movie.
Yeah, I think all I've ever. I assume it's a movie about lounging on the savannah
Mhm.
and looking at lions in the distance because I think that's the only footage I've ever seen from Out of Africa.
Okay, I mean the weird thing is it's called Out of Africa, but it seems like the movie spends a lot of time in Africa. So
Yeah, the
that's the
poster
problem
certainly
with it.
does.
yeah. So
Okay.
let's just assume an elephant steps on you at some point and it shakes you around. Yeah.
Okay. How about Patton? The movie Patton.
Mm.
Okay.
Well, of
Also
course, like
explosions. Yeah.
a robot hand needs to come out of the street in front of you and slap you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
So you can really feel the indignity.
And I think I saved the best for last, though. I think
Okay.
now that we have, I think Patton's pretty straightforward. Sound of Music.
Okay.
Sound of Music.
This has been on my mind lately because my wife has been exposing my younger son to Sound of Music to see what he thinks about it.
And he likes music,
Slowly.
right? He likes
And he
music.
does like
overcome
music. He likes music, and he'll watch any cartoon, but live action movies are kind of a harder sell for him. And they're watching it, and he kept saying, "This movie's kind of weird. Maybe it's a little boring." And my wife would say, "Do you want me to turn it off?" He goes, "No, we can keep watching it." So he's still he really wanted to see the puppet scene. Was really what it comes down to.
So we did.
That's kind of my attitude to Sound of Music. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of boring. It's also kind of compelling.
Yeah. So maybe during that, that's a
So
that's a good
you're
question.
exposing him to. You're going to start with the Sound of Music, then it's going to be Sound of Metal, and then Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Because he needs to
Yeah,
know
the
the
sound
truth. It's time to
trilogy.
red pill this kid. Yeah, exactly. So well, we're going to start with Sound of Music, and then we're going to go to Cabaret. And I want every Nazi musical I can get that I
Oh,
that I
wow,
can expose.
okay.
Yeah, get them to. Yeah. Again, I know those are not Nazi movies. They're musicals with Nazis in them. So
Mhm.
then I guess it's going to be Listomania. Will be the third movie that we show them.
Sure.
So.
Wow. What was the question? Something about
How would
Sound of
you
Music,
how would you do a
4DX
4DX
experience.
sound?
I
I mean,
mean,
you got to hills are alive. The
Yeah,
streets
they're
got to
alive.
like spin your
You gotta
ass
spin
around,
around.
right? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's
you're
so many.
shaking
There's
because those hills you're standing on are alive.
Well, there's so much like beautiful landscape photography that I feel like you can have the seats kind of moving around a little bit, like you're flying through it. I suppose.
Like you're in Soren.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're on the ride Soren. Yeah. Sound of Music is kind of the Soren of movies in some ways.
And Soren Kierkegaard is sort of the Soren of philosophers.
In that it feels like you're flying through the California landscape. Yeah.
Wait, what's Soren? Why do you keep saying this?
It's a
Do you not know Soren? It's a
Now I feel like you're fucking with me. What's going on?
So
It's a
Sauron is
it's
the
a
bad guy in
Disney-
the Lord of the Rings.
I
I'm
know
surprised you
that.
don't know that.
it's a Disney attraction where basically you just get in like these seats that are held up from the ceiling on these like things, and
Like
Okay.
the Batman roller coaster.
and there's a projection in front of you like 360, so it's like you're soaring over the landscape.
Oh.
yeah,
the
you're
beautiful
like
landscape.
flying around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was delighted that Dan referenced it though, because I was like, let's run to this one. That's something I didn't expect to come out of
Oh,
Dan, but
cool.
it fits.
Okay,
Disney
I'll-
attraction.
I
yeah,
went.
of course.
I went to Disney World a couple years ago. And it's still.
Dan, the resident Disney adult here. At
Yep,
the
I
Flophouse.
guess.
you saw
And
it
that
in
I've been to Disneyland and Disney World twice as an adult, I guess.
and it was because you saw a Florida project and it really made Disney World look appealing and exciting, right? You're like,
I had
I
a
can
great
escape
time.
from my life going to Disney World.
I went
Yeah.
with our friends John and Mary, who are like real, like planning
Mouseheads.
nerds.
Oh,
Mhm.
So they, like we knew all of the things that we had to do to actually get to do like rides and do things efficiently. So a lot of the stress that normally I think people associate with Disney was taken off the plate because I was with those in the know,
yeah. I think the secret, that the hack I've been able to figure out, maybe Dan, you can figure out to do this the next time you go to Disney Park, is be related by marriage to someone who works at Disney so they can get you free passes to the
Right.
park. It takes a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
stress off of feeling like you need to do everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you get like a flash pass or some shit?
There's like lightning
it's all
lanes and stuff
tiered
for
these
different
days.
rides.
It's
Yeah.
all it's all just a way to like let's get more money out of you, so you have a better experience than the other guy. Then you feel kind of guilty about it, but you're also like, well, what are you going to do? Like, I want to have a better experience.
I feel like
Yeah.
Griffin Newman was explaining his like a recent trip to Disney, and like I'm sure he talked to me for like an hour about this, and my brain doesn't process any of it.
Send it my way next time.
I mean, knowing Griffin, it was all concise, relevant information.
Yeah, no digressions at all.
No digressions at all. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, for Sound of Music, you're flying around a lot. We did it. Yeah.
I think the hills are alive with the sound of music. Okay, so now that we're all forward-thinking guys, let's take a step out of our own movie theater. Let's talk
Okay.
about theater in general. Let's talk about how movie theaters and actual theaters,
Legit theaters, the legit stage. Yeah.
now, how can the stage experience inform movie theaters, or how should movie theaters inform, say, a Broadway show experience? Other than the most obvious one, I don't know if anybody's been to a Broadway show here. Those seats are too dang small.
Oh.
They're
They
too
are
tiny.
very small. Most of those theaters are old houses that are trying to, one, pack a lot of seats into a small space, and also were made for smaller people at a time when people were generally smaller. They are too small. Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about how the two experiences appear to be converging in that, if you go to a Broadway show, most of them are based on movies, and like a lot of them have video elements in
Yeah,
them.
they're all
these
Beetlejuice
days.
at this point. Like there's something I really want to take my kids to a Broadway show, and at this point, it's like I want to.
Everything's Beetlejuice.
Everything's all this. Everything's. I went. Look, I'm trying to go see. I'm trying to find a place where I can just grope a horrible congresswoman, and all I can find is Beetlejuice. That's the only thing I can find. Anyway, that's a reference to a scandal that Lauren Boebert had a couple months ago, I guess. Right?
I did like the first Broadway show I went to post, the reopening after COVID was The Lion King, which was incredible. It was amazing.
Uh-huh.
We were seated very close to the front, and we were right on one of the rows, so I almost got stepped on by an elephant. It was amazing. But it was also awesome to see a guy who looked very much like a Midwestern dad there with what also looked very much like a sex worker or just an inappropriately dressed, much younger woman sitting in the front row. And I just
Yeah.
love I would love to be a fly on the wall in the conversation of this guy hiring a sex worker to
feel
go
like-
see The Lion King with him.
Yeah, it's a
Every
little like
time-
Steve Buscemi taking that prostitute to see Jose Feliciano in Fargo, right?
Yeah.
I feel like every time Audrey and I go to like sort of an anniversary level dinner, like a truly nice restaurant, like,
Uh-huh.
there's always at least one sort of couple in the
Yeah,
room
an
where I'm
uncle and
like,
his
is
niece.
this a sex worker
Yeah,
situation?
so I feel like it shows how innocent I am that I never, when I'm in those, my wife and I used to play a game called Daughter or Second Wife, and it never occurred to us that it would be a sex worker, but it was always like, that man is 30 years older than the woman he's with. Is that his daughter or is that his second wife? We've got to try to figure it out before the end of the meal, you know.
And then you realize,
if you don't, your meal. If you do, your meal is free.
Your meal is free. And if you don't, you have to work in the kitchens for the rest of your life.
Oh, no.
well, there's
Actually, that
no way,
can be
there's
a
no way
honest
anything he's saying is as delightful to her as her reaction. So this could be
She is so into
an
him, yeah.
exchange of goods for services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
I mean, it's not like they have similar, like, interests. I mean, he looks like he really loves Yellowstone.
And she's more into getting paid.
Being able to live a life that, has some freedom aside from this man.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, this is in no way an indictment of that.
No, I want to make that
sex
very
works
clear.
work.
Yeah.
So we're talking about
only,
the theater experience.
only of
though.
the age difference. Yeah. So I think I also would like those experiences to be a little bit different in terms of content. I was saying I'd like to take my kids to a Broadway show, but I want to take them to something that is not just a stage version of something they've seen in the movies. But I have seen Broadway shows where they use video elements in really cool ways, and that's neat. But in the movie theater experience, I wonder if there's a way to make it. I don't know.
Like if you go see Megan in the theater, you're going to have like a dancer dressed up like Megan dancing in the film.
I don't,
Well, see, because
I don't
at
want
that
to turn
point
into
it feels like
Cats or something.
yeah, it turns into like kitsch at that point as opposed to art. And I don't want to do anything too immersive because I don't want that. I don't need the performers interacting with me during the movie or the show. No, thank you.
Sleep more, sleep no more. I don't think so. Sleep
think
yes more.
I think I'll sleep less. Thank you very much.
I have been to a few screenings that I've enjoyed that, they do this sometime where there's a live performance of the score or some accompaniment.
Yeah,
Like I don't
I've
think
had
I've
some great
actually
experience with that.
been to one.
Like an extra saxophone player just cranking it.
Yeah, that's right.
or
Like if I went to see
like how
Lost
you-
Boys
yeah.
and they had an extra fucking saxophone player, that'd be great.
Or like
Get one
when
of
I
those
went to see,
drummers you can hire for your wedding reception.
Yes.
yeah.
Walks around.
Which I thought was ridiculous the first time I went there. And I'm like, you have a DJ and an extra drummer. And then that dude started wailing. I'm like, hell yes. Thank you.
when the Guy Mad movie Brand Upon the Brain was in theaters, they did this whole big thing where it's a silent movie, but they would have live Foley artists in the theater, and they had live musicians, and you had a celebrity narrator who was reading the narration, and that was a really cool way to do it. But I wouldn't want that for every movie. Like I don't need to see the Foley artists working for every. If I go to see I don't know, like what's a movie that's out now? The Holdovers. I don't need to see the guy with the shoes crunching on gravel to make sound like walking through snow.
Oh man, that would be a great 40X one where they get like fish smells and you smell Jim Beam. Oh god, that would
Well,
rule.
yeah, the wafts of a liquor scented breath are just pumped out at you at different points.
Man,
yeah.
I love that fucking movie.
Yeah, I like that movie.
This is reminding me that a former coworker of mine at the Daily Show, Joe Opio, who's from Uganda, was telling us that a lot of films in Africa that were from other countries, they would have sort of a local man, like basically like a DJ, like with a microphone, sort of narrating the film and embellishing the film rather than having like subtitles or dubs or whatever. It would just be like, all right, this guy's going to tell you the story and like really like embellish it however he wants to. And that sounds amazing to me.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a real
It does
experience.
remind me of those movie posters you see from, I don't remember where and which African nation, where they take something like Mrs. Doubtfire and all the characters are covered in blood. It's like the embellishments go a little too far sometimes. Or it'll be like Dumb and Dumber and like a xenomorph is bursting out of one of their chests or something.
Now you've also touched on the other part of this question, as we're all forward-thinking people and we're thinking about the future of both cinema and the stage. There have been a lot of stage adaptations that were once movies and movies that were once stage shows.
Mean Girls is in theaters now, and it's a movie based on a Broadway show based on a movie.
Yeah, just like it was a real hairspray switch. So
yeah.
Is there a show that you think should be turned into a movie or a movie that you think is desperate to be made into a Broadway show?
I just realized the first of those was probably Little Shop of Horrors, right? Was that the first movie that was made into a theater musical that was then turned into a movie of that musical?
Oh, maybe.
I bet I bet
I
there's
don't
one
know.
from like the 30s or
Write
something.
in, folks.
Audiences, write in. But yeah, what's one that we think would work that way or should work that way, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Oh boy.
I mean, I've seen a few musicals. I wouldn't be surprised if something like Anne Juliet were to be turned into a movie because it is. I mean, I guess it is a lot of pop music, but I feel like it's peppy, it's bright. Young people like that stuff, right?
You guys
Like
seen
a
this
retelling of a.
You've seen this Dear Evan Hansen play? That they could probably make a movie out of that, but they've got to keep the main guy. They've got to keep.
I
him.
feel like the musical based on the movie Dear Evan Hansen. That's where it's really going to kick off.
I want to see a musical about the movie being made of Dear Evan Hansen, and all the songs are about like, "Am I too old for this part?" That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be great. Digitally de-age me.
I'm trying to look up. At one point I was keeping a list of stuff I'd seen in the theater, but
I would love to see.
You just saw Merrily We Roll Along. Should they make a movie out of that?
No, actually, Audrey went without me. That was a friend.
Wow.
Guess you didn't roll along.
Wow.
I had seen it. I'd seen it recently though.
With
off
Daniel
Broadway,
did you see it
not
with
the
Daniel Radcliffe?
I didn't see the Daniel Radcliffe. She
There've
did.
been a lot of revivals of Merrily We Roll Along in the past few years. That's that's the Sondheim revival du jour of the moment. But I think I've talked. I don't remember if I've talked about it on the podcast. There's a play I saw years ago called Mr. Burns by Anne Washburn that I think.
Oh yeah.
It's a great experience in a theater, but I think that would be a really cool movie to see too. But I'd kind of want I would want a normal director to do the first two parts and then like Ken Russell to do the last part, you know. But as for movies that could be turned into musical plays, that's a good question. What have I seen that would?
I mean,
work
theoretically, like if you're seriously approaching it, you need to find something that has managed to capture some kind of cultural zeitgeist on some level, right? Not just it has to like. Part of what makes Mean Girls work is that it like hit at a very specific time.
Yes, I think so.
And
you never know. There are definitely. I mean, like I said, Little Shop of Horrors. Like I guess the zeitgeist was people like camp being something that people were more open to. You know,
Evil dentists
and evil dentists. Yeah. But then you see movie. There's like I didn't see the Broadway show of like Tootsie, but that was one of those ones where it was like this does not feel like the right time for this show.
That was interesting. I saw that one because
you love the movie.
No, for some reason, like the Daily Show got an opportunity for like just like free tickets for people who wanted to go, and so I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah,
great,
free Broadway show, definitely.
And it was a lot better than I kind of imagined it might be, and I think that part of it was like it did engage with the fact, like, hey, it's weird that this guy's like aggrieved and like dresses as a woman to try and get a role and steals it from an actual woman out there in the world, like. The movie, the movie is from another time and is trying to do a different lesson. It's like, oh, if you walk in a woman's shoes, maybe you'll learn something. And it's ignoring this other stuff that the play then did sort of work on. I don't think it quite cracked it, but it came closer than I expected.
Who's the lead in the stage show? Was it the guy who played original Greg on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. So let's go back. Now that we've talked a lot about theater stuff, let's cycle back to the original premise, which is Dan has inherited a movie theater and we now have to run it. What job would each of us be responsible for?
Dan, I see you at the snack bar because you like food.
Wow.
You like to cook. And also, in theory, you should be front of house. But I feel like you will get easily flustered at the front of house. Whereas as the snack bar, I think you can also like really criticize people for what they're buying, and I think you can be sarcastic to them.
Okay,
sure.
I will accept this if in this constructed reality, like there's a bit more of a short order cook element than just the regular snack bar element.
We've got a half kitchen, and also, do we have a bar? Is it that kind of theater? Because otherwise,
I mean, we should, right? That's where the money's at.
Okay, so Dan will do that. Obviously, he has the most experience.
Sales.
Yeah, I think Stuart
is the most experienced serving alcohol to people. Yep.
I think Stuart's going to be in the ticket booth. I'll be operating the projection, probably. Yeah, right. Because that way I can yell things at the audience while they're watching it.
So who's going to handle the program?
Well, that's the thing. We got to split up the programming duties because I think we're going to fight for it. But like,
we all do that.
Elliot can, maybe we have focuses. Like Elliot's more in the classics programming and
that's weird. Why would he do that?
For the same reason Dan's running the bar. Experience,
and, we want to make him feel like he's older.
Dan would have his cheeky Wednesdays where he just shows cheeky.
Where he shows Tinto brass movies.
Tinto's Thursdays, yeah.
Tinto Tuesdays is the
Oh,
obvious.
yeah,
Tinto
Come on.
Tuesdays.
Come on.
It's the only theater I can imagine where Dan is like, right, dear Mr. Brass, we're holding a retrospective of your work. Please come live at our theater.
Yeah, because we would have we'd all sleep in one giant bed with little caps on.
I've
Yep,
seen his
yep.
cameos in his own pictures. He seems like a gross man.
Oh, really? The guy who's it's an almost entirely shots of up women's skirts based filmography? Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess now that we've divided that up, I think the only thing left to do is to open this sucker, Dan.
Oh,
so
wow.
you just need to have
know we're committed,
a
but-
long lost relative die
Okay.
and leave you the movie theater.
All right.
So this was a pretty informative episode, and I think everybody learned something. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a Flophouse Mini. We're part of the Maximum Fun Podcast Network that has a ton of really good podcasts on it. We have an upcoming tour, which you should come see because, as Elliot put it, thanks to the way that airplanes work, you can go anywhere you want.
Wow, that's putting a lot of pressure on people.
Distance no longer exists. We have crushed it. It is now, the world is your oyster.
Financial issues involved.
That's
I'm on your side.
true. That's true. Now, this show has been edited and produced by Mr. Howell Doughty. That's Alex Smith. He's Howell Doughty on various social media platforms. He's the best. He was my best man at my wedding. I love him.
Wow.
What a credit.
I mean, it's
he's
a pretty
apparently
unique credit, dude.
Yeah.
Top of the call sheet above us.
So for the Flophouse podcast, I have been your ticket taker, Stuart Wellington.
I've been your snack bar coordinator, Dan McCoy.
And I'm the projectionist, Elliot Kalin, saying, quiet down there. I'm the only one who's allowed to talk during the movie.
Bye.
Maximum Fun
A worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
Directly
by you.